As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 113 of Zero to Hero, presented by J29 Creative Group. Our next hero, I'm going to start off with saying he's got a fantastic mustache, but he also has a great idea, and along with his partner, of starting a ghostwriting company. The company is called Streamline Books, and he is the co-founder and COO. His name is Will Severns. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Will, how are you this morning?
Hey, Gino, I'm great, man. Thank you so much for having me. Sometimes doing these podcasts, especially one called Zero to Hero, is pretty surreal when I see myself way more in the red of that logo than I do the blue. But man, nonetheless, it's an honor. So many great people in and around Kansas City, the Midwest. I know you guys have had on your show, so thank you for the invite to you and Kevin, man. I'm really grateful.
Oh, no. Well, thank you for coming on. And I think that's probably a very common theme that a lot of our heroes that we have on the show feel, right? Is kind of that almost, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but almost that imposter syndrome, right? Of like, am I? Like, did I do that? Right? But you guys have done it. You guys have written thousands and thousands of pages, probably tens of thousands of pages, many more hundreds of thousands of words, right? Spent hours and hours on the phone. But what is it? I mean, tell us about Streamline Books. What do you guys do there? Kind of start to finish. I know it's kind of all encompassing, but tell us a little bit about that and then what you guys have coming up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I will say, going back to the mustache, the stash is about as old as Streamline Books, for the last 3 or so years. And so, man, I come from a baseball background. And so superstition is a big part of my upbringing. And so, man, if you guys ever see me around town without the stash, that probably means that Streamline is, we're downhill. We've sunk the ship, and I'm back to a baby face boy out in the wild. But man, Streamline is so fun. What we get to do over, like I said, the last 2 to 3 years is when we've been kind of in build mode. When I say we, it is namely my partner, Alex Demchek, and I. So Alex and I, kind of the origin is we worked at a summer camp called Kanakuk Camps years ago, a little over 10 years ago. It's based out of Branson, Missouri. Alex and I were counselors together in 2013, 2014. And after we were counselors, kind of life took us separate ways. And then we reconvened in 2020. And at that point, I had my own content marketing company here in Kansas City called Quill Creative. So I did Quill like the pen, but I did QWILL. So got my name in there. And I was doing a lot of writing-centric content marketing at the time. So different email newsletters or blog posts or social media, case studies, what have you, for different companies in town. That's where a little bit of the overlap I mentioned to Kevin. I was working with Josh Levin down at Empowered Electric, and that's kind of where I'd first heard Kevin's name, and just some awesome stuff as those two have interacted in the past. Sam Unruh at Unruh Furniture is another one I was doing some So just some really great clients I was able to work with on the writing centric side. And around that time is when some people started asking me about helping others share their story in book form. And they would ask me about ghostwriting, and I'd say, yeah, I've helped some leaders with blog posts or LinkedIn articles. And some people were going, yeah, what about my book? And so I just kind of did a deep dive into that space. That's when I reconnected with my buddy, Alex. Alex lives in Columbia, Missouri. And for the last 5 to 7 years, he's had his own public speaking business. And he's going, Will, people ask me all the time, how do I get into more how do I get my message out to the world or get into more speaking? And Alex would tell them, a book helps for various, some obvious reasons. And people would say, well, how do I do that? And Alex never really had an answer for him. And so we said, let's try it, where it was kind of me on the writing and editing side, and then Alex kind of on the post-production side, people going, I've got this book and now what? We did it with our first author. His name was Colin Holba. He was a family friend of Alex's, long snapper in the NFL who was about to retire, kind of in transition mode, and he wanted to write this book. So we helped Colin write his book. We helped him write, edit, publish his book in July of 2021. And just late last week, we actually signed author number 118 that we've worked with in the last 2.5 to 3 years. And so it's fun. I'm sure, even you think zero to hero, you got to start somewhere, episode one, which I saw for you guys was Paul Long, who is obviously a wonderful and well-known individual in the city. And then before you know it, here we are, I get to be 113 on the podcast and for our authors, but that is to say we're proud of that number. We're grateful for all we've learned in the last few years, Gino. But we know, man, it is a drop in the bucket compared to how many people that are out there who are going, man, I've got this story in me. Obviously, everyone has a story to share, or people who've gone, yeah, people ask me all the time, I should write a book. It's kind of just a longing for a lot of people. Most just don't know the next step to take as it relates to those three elements of writing, editing, and publishing and bringing your book to life. So that's what we do. We know that, there's so much about prospective authors who they don't know what they don't know. And man, we don't take that lightly. We really serve as a guide from the beginning. Namely with, you talk about some of our why and some things we're passionate about. One of those being kind of reframing author success for our authors to, some people that just kind of come in and think, man, what would it look like if I not only wrote a book, but it sold X amount of copies and I maybe landed on a bestseller list. And we say, look, what if there is a deeper reason why, you want to write your book in the first place, to share it with the world? It's at the top of our website, which is writemybooks.com. That's our URL. It says the world needs your book. That's kind of the header right now on our website. And some people go, really? The world? And we say 7 billion people, probably not. But there is
somebody does.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I said, it's reframing of, instead of starting here with those high and lofty expectations, when you start kind of on the opposite end, if there's just one person who is meant to read, my book, my shared stories, my shared expertise, then everything after that, man, is gravy, and you have this book as a resource for the following 3, 5, 10 years to make an impact. The exact precise impact we don't know, and there's nothing we could promise. You're gonna do X, Y, Z, but we found that the alternative is actually much better because it's the testimonials, it's the reviews, it's the impact that our authors aren't expecting. That in the end makes them so glad that they committed to the journey and bringing their book to life.
Man, that is awesome. And 118 authors in 3 years is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's quite. I don't know that I've told 118 stories my entire life. Well, you've done it in the last 2.5, 3 years, so that's pretty good, man. That's fantastic. I mean, how many? So 118 authors. I assume we're pushing. I don't know if all the books are released yet, right? You just signed the 118th, but we got to be close to 100 books now, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, when you think about probably 20 to 25 active authors in our pipeline right now. So give or take, maybe coming up on 100 books that are, live on Amazon. You could go on and purchase them. And what's so cool is we kind of set the ball on a tee for our authors to knock it out of the park. And that is what is so fun, man, to watch in the aftermath. Like I mentioned, these authors, to help them say, hey, you're born to write something better than a bestseller. And that's the book you were born to write. And once people grasp that reality, then they get to go and use it to make an impact. We have a number of Kansas City local authors, which is great to see. But then we also, because of the nature of our job, we work with authors all over the country. And so we help provide them with this resource that, I already mentioned, I believe, a book makes your message portable throughout the country. A lot of our authors, they wish they could sit down, grab coffee with anyone and everyone, but it's just not the case. And what a book does is it helps them replicate themselves, so to speak, to get their story and expertise in front of however many. I mean, a book as a medium, obviously over over centuries has kind of stood this test of time, where now you have podcasts, you have email newsletter, you have social media, but for some reason, there's something about holding a physical, bound resource to share with others. It's really special. And I mean, we love what we get to do, and really feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah, no, and I love what you said about the world needs your book too, right? I mean, it's almost if you start with that kind of giving mentality, right? Of somebody needs to hear this, what's going on with me, right? Or in my brain or in my world, right? Because it's gonna help them. I think, it really does help kind of I want to say temper expectations, right? But make a realistic goal of I'm getting my story out to help somebody, right? And if it ends up on a bestseller list somewhere, great. that's such a good mentality to lead in with, man. I love that. And I'm going to kind of segue that into the meat of our show here. So obviously you are a giving person, right? You're somebody that is willing to help others, right? That's the literal nature of your business. But I'm going to ask you to put the business aside a little bit and tell us, who is Will Severns? Give us the elevator pitch about you.
Yeah, in short, I'm a Kansas City native. So I was born and raised in Prairie Village. I went to Shawnee Mission East. I went to a small Christian school about an hour north of Indianapolis called Taylor University. And that's where I met my bride, Lauren. We graduated in 2015, got married in 16, and then in July of 18 is when we moved back after the birth of our son. So yeah, man, first and foremost, I'm a husband to Lauren. I'm a father to our son, Branch, who is 6, Winnie, who is 4. And then 2 months ago, we had our third, who's Cal. And
congratulations.
Yeah. So beyond that, man, I'm just a hopeless Royals fan that has his hopes way too high as we speak.
Hopefully not hopeless this year. I'm with you.
Yeah. Oh man, how fun, to just be a part of meaningful baseball in the summer. And years, last few years at this point, we're ready for Chiefs. We're ready to kick off.
Started June, we're done.
Yeah, exactly. So I love throwing games on the radio, man. But no, I think in short, Gina, the last thing I would say, and one of my mentors, kind of a leadership coach I've worked with in the past, he kind of bestowed this message onto me. He goes, Will, you are someone who moves stories forward. And for me to adopt that, I'm someone who I move stories forward. I help other people move their story forward. I love that. He spoke that over me a few years ago, and that has kind of shown itself up in different ways. And then obviously Streamline being one of those offerings, I don't feel like I've made it by any means. I don't feel like, this is it for the rest of my life. I don't consider myself a serial entrepreneur, but I do consider myself entrepreneurial. And so for sure, I'm not just an ideas guy. I love having the ability to take an idea and take the necessary steps to bring it into fruition. Like, I just think that is a gift that we have as humans. And I love to exercise that, knowing that on the other side of trying is failure. But even in the failure, you learn and you grow. And, extending the classroom experience wasn't exactly for me, to go get my MBA. Maybe there was a thought there at one point, but at this point in the game, it feels like I'm living it out, man. I'm living out the MBA experience. There's just some stuff in the classroom I don't think can be taught as it relates to, client relations and building a profitable business, all the things that we've gotten to do with Streamline. I'm grateful for the good days and bad, man, because through it all, I've learned so much that I can hope to share with others in the future and move their stories forward in the process.
Absolutely. And eventually you're going to have to write your own book. I mean, that's, I feel like the natural progression of, I don't know what the title is. We can work on that, but eventually the book writer's book or something like that. We got to figure it out.
Yeah. No, that's funny, man. And I will say, spoiler alert, I already have. And it's,
there we go.
Yeah. And it was largely means to an end. And I know I'm seeing the scroll here. I'm glad that I'm keeping
you're good.
I'm glad I'm keeping this to 2 sentences because I like to be concise. So here we go. I guess this is my second sentence in the last 3 minutes. Yeah. So when I mentioned that deep dive I did into this publishing space, largely the area of indie or self-publishing, is what it's known as. I self-published my first book in May or June of 2020. That was that time and season of, Will, what would you think about helping with other books? Well, this means to an end where if I'm going to help others do this, I want to know it myself. And so, then it became a, subject matter. What would I write on? I had been off social media for about a year up until that point. And so that's what I wrote my first book on. It's called Gouge. The title, there's a scripture where Jesus talks about, if one eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. And it's like, oh man, that's kind of intense. But it's largely more metaphorical to say, hey, if you're struggling with something, look at ridding yourself of that to prevent yourself from falling into something even deeper. And so I say, spoiler alert. I know you mentioned, hey, we can share social media at the end. I saved LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'll post there semi-regularly, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I just knew needed to go because I was struggling with some of those platforms as it relates to usage of time, comparison to others. And so that's what I wrote my short little book on. And yeah, I don't share this with everyone, this part of the story, but I actually shared my book on LinkedIn, and that's what caused my business partner to reach out to me. And my now business partner, Alex, he goes, Will, I read Gouge. He goes, you should do this for other people. I said, well, that's kind of why I wrote it, because I want to help people with this 1, 2, 3. So it's kind of cool how in some backhanded. Yeah. So.
I mean, the power of social media obviously can be used for good or bad, right? As we just, as you just clearly laid it out there. I'm gonna have to check that book out, man. That sounds amazing. And that's definitely a message that needs to get out there, right? What happens when you turn it off, right? I think a lot of people get scared of what happens if I shut down the profile for a little bit, right? As I get older, I'm seeing more and more of the people that I grew up with that are like, I'm done. I'm turning it off. You've got my phone number, right? Call me, text me, FaceTime me. I'm turning this off for a while, right? Little digital detox, which is probably something that we need to normalize a little bit more, right? As a little bit of a digital detox, just because they disappear from Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram for a week doesn't mean they're dead, right? They are still alive. They're still breathing, right? They're just in the world.
Yeah, man. We'll have to be careful because I could get off on this tangent, but it's, my dad loves this line of, sometimes you have to get rid of something good to get something great, right? And a lot of the good things around social media were ultimately taking away from my marriage, for instance, becoming great. And, hey, delete the app off my phone for Lent or for a month. It's like some people, they'll do it. For me, it was actually deleting my profile, and it's like, oh man, but I already have almost 1,000 followers and this little deal I built for myself. We can't really rationalize, but man, once you pull that plug, I guarantee you there's a lot of good on the other side of that decision. And it drew me back to my phone contacts, and calling someone, heaven forbid, and email newsletter. I really doubled. So I have an email newsletter. I have a Substack, which that's one thing we could share at the end. It's called the Porcupine, that kind of went along with Quill, Porcupine, and stuff like that, man, which I would say to anyone listening, like email newsletter and building up your subscriber base is so important as it relates to sharing your message. We talk with that with our authors. Yeah, man, that experience, although there was no like mass marketing behind the book, it was good to do it myself before weaving it into an offering for others.
Yeah, absolutely. And it leads us into our next question perfectly, which is I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about your social media journey. So we got a little bit of the personal side, and we can start there again if you'd like as well. But obviously when Streamline started, we realized we've got to do this, right? We got to get the company up there. The company needs to be noticeable, but you start with 0 likes, 0 follows, 0 posts. So talk to us a little bit about that journey as well, and kind of obviously starting with probably you posting about your book and this thing coming to fruition, right? To where we're at now.
Yeah, no, and apologies for jumping the gun on this question.
Oh, you're great. No, I love it.
Yeah, I agree that my book, where it kind of takes that more personal approach and zooming out a little bit onto business, it's like, well, what do you do? As a business owner and a leader, like you have to engage with it somehow. I love the line of, people don't buy from businesses, people buy from people. And so as we think about now, for Alex and I, our engagement with LinkedIn, it's like we share stories, we share what it's like as a business owner. We aren't always pumping Streamline down people's throats, but I would rather produce good content that attracts eyeballs and ears as opposed to just a 24/7 sales pitch on social media. So I have my own thoughts there. But I would also say, man, and in building a business, kind of in this, I hate to come zero to hero in my quest to be a hero. I actually think what's cool is about the title of this podcast is we want to help our authors go from zero to hero. Like that is really the goal of Streamline is, we go to these conferences. A lot of times it's the same people up on stage every time. And people will say that, I'm not a John Acuff or Tony Robbins or Brene Brown. And we're saying, you don't have to be. You're Gina McCulloch, like you have your own story to share with the world. And one day, someone's going to hold up your book in the same way that you hold up Brene's. And they're going to say, I needed this book in, 2022 because I was going through XYZ. And so we try to help empower others that way. In building a business for ourselves, it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last few years, man, because we can get so enthralled with the social media, what people see. Obviously, all this, you've heard it so many times. What people don't know is that as a business, we're in the black. Our business, we're not in debt. We pay writers and editors to do really good work on behalf of other authors. It's kind of our model is we will sign an author. We have their author bio and their book description, and we send it out to a list of contracted writers and editors, and we pair them. And it's a blast, man. And like that matchmaking process is so integral because that's kind of their steward in the story. There's so much behind the social media scenes that's gone on with Streamline over the last 3 years, man. But it's building a business. And I would rather build a sustainable business, even if it means pumping the brakes on social media and what we're outputting to the world. It doesn't mean they aren't both important, but it's like, be careful how you order those two, because a lot of people, they want to go to the brand, they want to go to social media, build this platform. But if you aren't making money, none of that stuff matters. And so we're kind of in this season right now where we've just brought on a designer to help us create, some social media templates. Man, we have so much content that we have and are excited to share with the world. But again, it just hasn't been our first priority. It's why I'm thankful for people like yourselves to reach out and to invite and to lift up voices in and around the city. That is so needed, because again, similarly, a lot of the times it's the same people over and over again, but there are really cool people doing really great stuff in and around Kansas City, in and around the Midwest. They're just too busy building their business. They don't have time to promote themselves. And so when you get people like J29 and what you guys are doing, like that is, yeah, man, it's so humbling, because you wonder, it's like, I don't know if I need to submit myself to different, or the PR thing. I just don't really have time for it because we're building our business and it's so fun and it's too exciting. Does any of that make sense?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. No, I especially love going back to kind of the beginning of what you said and what you guys are sharing. It's really ironic. I just read a case study yesterday about some data where it was talking kind of about different demographics within social media, how they react, how they respond, right? And it was talking about how 56% of Gen Z people believe that every company lies about their product on social media or something like that. It was
wow.
It was pretty wild, right? I don't remember exactly what the stat was off the top of my head, but thinking about that, right, and what you guys are sharing, right? I mean, it's about the journey. It's about who you guys are, right? And I think that's really where this newer generation resonates, is what's behind the brand, right? What's behind the company. May not have been something that I was thinking about before, but I love Will so much and his messaging, right? Now I'm thinking about writing a book, right? Because I'm watching Will go through this journey. And by the way, I'm picking up little tricks and tidbits and little things that are going on that he's doing with his customers along the way. So I think that strategy, right, of don't pump it out there. Don't be constantly selling, right? That's not really what social media is for. Tell that story, right? Go through that journey, share that with people that are prospective clients or maybe even not, right? People that just want to see your journey. So I absolutely love that, man. And again, you keep pumping us up, but I appreciate you for coming on the show, man. We love having great guests and our leaders around the city, and you're definitely one of them, man. So I'm going to ask you how you got there on the next one. Every superhero has a defining moment. What do you think yours is, not only when it comes to your career, but your life as well?
Yeah, a defining moment.
Yeah.
Hands down, man. I don't have to think about it. I was thinking how to phrase it, but I'll keep it simple. The day I got fired, a little over 5 years ago, was my defining moment. I worked at a marketing town here in Kansas City. I say marketing town, a marketing company here in town. Excuse me. April 12th, 2019. And man, that was my defining moment to say, all right, let's go, let's get it going. And when I say that, I mean, I'm sitting there across my boss, he tells me, Will, in the nature of a marketing company, sometimes it's volatile, but hey, running a business is hard, and I remember even in the moment, I didn't hold anything against him or the company. It was just like, okay, I had a wife. I had, I believe, a 6-month-old at the time, and where they kind of gave me an opportunity to voice my thoughts or frustration. It was, hey, I'm good, guys. Like, I know this work doesn't define me. It's not who I am. Earlier in my elevator pitch, I didn't lead with Streamline. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm hopefully a friend to many in and around town. And I just walked out of there, head held high. I didn't know what was in store. Coincidentally, my wife was out of town. And so my brother, who's my best friend, he said, Willie, come on over. Let's have, so we had celebration steaks that night.
I love it.
And yeah, which is ironic because now my brother Drew Severns is the owner of Chick-fil-A in Lenexa. And yeah, so Drew owns Chick-fil-A Lenexa, and then he just locked down his second store off Shawnee Mission Parkway that's coming later this fall, winter. So there we are eating celebration steaks and just kind of cheers to the future. The next day, April 13th, I'll never forget. I went to a coffee shop. I sent out 30 to 40 different emails to people around town. Hey, here's my story. If you could be thinking or keep an ear out. That turned into my first 3 or 4 freelance marketing clients, which led into Quill. And then obviously I shared earlier Quill that led into Streamline. And, your defining moment doesn't feel like your defining moment when it's happening.
Right. Absolutely.
Exactly. But man, I look back now and I'm a little over 5 years now without a full-time boss. I'm my own boss, which I love. I don't take for granted. I share with some people that my least favorite day doing what I've been doing in the last 5 years is better than my favorite day, in my old gig. And that's not to say, again, anything bad about the company or that role. I've just realized about me, like, now in this season is where I get to help provide opportunity for others internally for our writers and editors, and then externally for our authors that we get to work with. And, something coming back to Josh Levin that he would say when I was working at Empowered, he goes, Will, giving someone a raise is 1,000 times better than ever getting one. And so that type of mentality keeps me going. Those are the heroes, the ones that I see working through the muck and mire of business ownership or just leadership in general, because they know there's something so good on the other side. But man, there are hard days. And I was at this John Maxwell conference a little over a month ago, and he said, leaders, high road leaders, he was talking about, low road, middle road, high road leaders. He goes, high road leaders don't have 2 consecutive good days in a row. It's like, man, it's so true. Yesterday, a Monday, back off the week. Yeah, just full transparency. Yesterday was a hard day, and my wife and I weren't getting much sleep, and so you grind. And today feels like a better day. I get to do the podcast with you guys, and I don't know what that means for tomorrow, but
yeah, it's kind of a bummer when you think about it like that. Like, oh, today was good, tomorrow's gonna suck.
Yeah, right. But man, just to put a bow on it, I think it's those hardest moments in adversity that honestly are the most apt to leading to one's defining moments. And I guess I would just share that of like those moments, man. You might have it in you. You want to say the thing. You want to write George Costanza signed. It's like, oh, that's what I should have said. It's like everyone has those moments. But if you can truly take the high road, like I've just seen time and time again, it work out for people. And I just think by grace, I was able to have enough in me that said, I think this is going to lead to something great. Some people, they pull the trigger themselves, they quit, they go out on their own. For me, it was the opposite. I needed kind of the boot to get jump started on my own journey.
Absolutely, man. I'm a strong believer in everything happens for a reason, right? And a lot of times those reasons are retrospective, right? Like I was not supposed to be here, right? I needed to get out and go do my own thing and be happy, man. I love that. I love that. Heroes have attributes just like villains, right? What do you think really are the attributes that more define that hero side versus the villain?
Yeah, I am a huge believer in leading with humility first and foremost. But then I also think joy. I guess starting with the former, there was again, I mentioned Taylor University is where I went to school, and we had a professor from another university actually visit and give a lecture my senior year, and he said something that senior year that just changed me and changed a lot of my outlook. Someone who is more outgoing, it's like I love a room full of people and shaking hands, and he drops this line that I try to lead with. He goes, pride walks into a room and says, "Here I am." Humility walks into a room and says, "There you are." And I think that kind of the ethos behind that line is a way that I hope to lead in and throughout my journey. Humility is a defining trait of a hero. Means it's like, I'm not in this for myself. It is like, I am in this to help you grow in your journey. I mentioned part of my kind of mission is to help move stories forward. And then to do it with joy. Another line from college, as I'm thinking through, it's like, yeah, my college experience was beneficial and good. And you think back to, man, do I even use my major and what I learned? But it's some of these ancillary things where the president of our school said, as a leader, you have to be able to receive chaos and give back joy, or receive chaos and give back hope. Which I think in turn leads to me saying joy as a leader. Like, that is so important to keep morale, to keep the culture of business, yes, but also of your family. As we're going through these sleepless nights, Lauren and I, like, how do you keep morale through those difficult seasons to experience the true good on the other side? So yeah, humility and joy, if I had to choose two. And then if there's a third, I would just say obedience over the long haul. There's a great book Lauren and I are reading right now by Eugene Peterson called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And that, I think, is business ownership. Like, it is a long obedience in the same direction, saying we are staying course. We're not going to veer off. When and if we veer off, we need people to help us guide us and remember us why we were on this path in the first place. I'm grateful to have a lot of those people in my life. Humility, joy, obedience, if I had to say three.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I love the business philosophies that you lead with as well. Gary Vee is somebody that I follow quite a bit. I'm sure you do as well with your background. And he loves talking about, right, if you feel like your employees work for you, you're not going to make it, right? I mean, you work for your employees.
I almost said it, man. I almost said you work for your employees when I was talking about humility, because it's so true, and we're coming into, we just hired our fifth W-2 employee, which is our own, where we've been working with mostly contractors in the past. We really like kind of this model of having this core group of W-2, kind of our leadership team we see kind of based out of Kansas City. And then beyond that, again, we work with writers and editors across the country. So yeah, I'm a Gary Vee fan as well. That's a great word.
I love it. I'm going to ask you the hard one here, Will. If you had to compare yourself to any superhero that is out there, who would that be? And tell us a couple reasons why they're like Will Severns.
Yeah, I know this is going to be tough because I rock the mustache. I don't know if I'm just trying to compensate for something here, but baby face, I have to go Baby Yoda.
Okay.
Yeah, Yoda seems a little bit too hero for me, but I think the origin story of Yoda, obviously it captivated a nationwide audience, a few years ago, and all things Mandalorian. And it's it's what I guess I aspire to be is old gray haired, I guess living on my own planet in a dark wormhole or wherever, Yoda ends up is, it's just a pursuit of wisdom, man, is why I think I'd say Baby Yoda. And on this journey, you think about actually what happens between, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, what happens between Baby Yoda and actual Yoda? I don't know. Many, many years in a galaxy far, far away. But something I've been thinking a lot about lately, the last few years, Gino, is kind of our societal, kind of cultural, LinkedIn, what have you, is a little bit of, I don't say obsession. There's a lot of, 30 under 30, is 40 under 40. This last year on my dad's 70th birthday, I made a LinkedIn post that I was like, hey, what's up with no 70 under 70 posts? And that post got some love. And it was funny because it made me think. I clicked on the hashtag for 30 under 30 and boom, under LinkedIn, it's like you have a ton of followers. You have like thousands of followers that follow these 30 for 30 lists. Same thing with 40 under 40. And when I clicked 70 under 70, there was one follower and it was me because I posted that hashtag. And that was just kind of like a moment for me to say, man, it's the gray hair, it's those individuals who have been there, they've done it. Those are the ones I'm looking to follow because I know how hard it is myself. And even though my flesh might say, yeah, I want people to look up at me like I'm doing it, I feel so green as a business owner, and now I'm learning and I'm growing every day. No pun intended on the Yoda, but I do feel green. And, and in my worst moments, on those bad days, every other day of my life currently, I go, man, gosh, what am I doing? The imposter syndrome. Yeah. But then you have the other days that are good days and people that build in you. It's like, Will, you're on the same track. Keep going. Stay on this track because those 50, 60, 70-year-old individuals who have been there, done that, so to speak, they were all where we are at this point in life. And so I just try to give myself grace, but hope if when my hair is old and gray and I'm walking around with my cane and I can help out one or two budding Jedis, that's success to me, I would say.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. And I with your mentality, Will, I think you're definitely going to get there, man. You're absolutely awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. You have been absolutely wonderful. How can people find you guys? How can they get a hold of you? If they've got an idea, they don't know where to start, where can they catch up with you guys?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone, whether it's about you or someone to bring their book to life, because it's so. Yeah, I could talk about it for a while. It's 2024 in this day and age of, man, what's the rest of this year going to look like? Where's our kind of hope and where are we looking, for the country, for the outlook? It's like what we get to do is help. It's not from the top down, right? It's not from DC down. It's like we get to help from the more bottom up. And whether it's you or someone, writemybooks.com. We kind of work in two spheres. One is if someone's bringing us a finished manuscript, maybe you have a Word document that's been collecting dust, and we help you take that document into completion on the writing and editing side, and then eventually the publishing. Or we'll work with anyone from scratch. If either they want to lead the way writing, we provide you with a writing coach to bring your book into fruition, or we have a ghostwriting option, which is someone saying, guys, it's all up here. What I don't have is time or skill set to sit in front of my computer and hammer this thing out. A line from one of my favorite authors, he goes, future authors don't seek to get published, seek to get edited. And that's what we do really well. We help people write books they're proud of. Anyone, you could watch a few YouTube tutorials and figure out how to publish your book, but we take you through from start to finish. And then LinkedIn, I would love to connect with anyone and everyone. I feel like at this point in the journey, I am coming up for water a little bit. I'm starting to kind of peek my head above ground, and it's fun to do things like this in and around Kansas City to say, look at what we've been doing the last few years. Yeah. And I was going to share even just like this little blurb from Corey Shear, who is local. I mean, he would be perfect for Zero to Hero. Corey has, he's out of Liberty. He has his consulting business, Trust Centric Consulting. And I mean, his stuff is blowing up. He helps go in and help reorient and restructure these business models to focus on trust first. And that line he dropped in a LinkedIn post a couple months back what was the best business decision he made was write his book, not personal, like for his business. That's the kind of stuff that comes as a result from committing to the process and doing it. You can talk about running that marathon or half marathon or 5K, probably for me. You can talk about it all you want, but until you register, until you put money down and commit, like, you're never going to experience the actual fruit of that process. So yeah, would love to, we have a referral program. So if you send us to your crazy uncle that's got stories to share, or your awesome grandpa, to get his life legacy down, we do have a great little kind of affiliate program where we send kickbacks. And yeah, more than anything, would love to connect to anyone listening to hear your story.
I love it, Will. Man, thank you for coming on the show. Again, you have been absolutely awesome. I can't wait to watch what you guys do in the future.
Thank you so much, Hino. Yeah, I appreciate you and anyone else who would tune into this. And pumped to maybe do it again sometime, man. Maybe if I could circle back, I don't know, maybe 1,013, maybe 1,000 guests. Maybe I'll be that much closer. I'll be that much closer to the blue at that point.
I don't think it's going to take that long. Maybe we'll see. Maybe episode 300 or somewhere in there. We'll maybe see you again. I think we'll be much larger than we are now, man. I love it, Will. You guys are awesome. Congratulations on your success to this point. And I can't, again, wait to see what you guys do in the future. And thanks for coming on the show, and everybody out there, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Gina.
Hey, are we still live? Hey guys, we're still live. Hey guys, this is Kevin Kwok, founder of J29 Creative Group. So who are we? We're a marketing agency here in Kansas City. We're all about a holistic approach to marketing that builds your brand and nurtures online community. But to be honest with you, you guys don't care.